Rexroad.
Yes.
Mr. Bukowski.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes. That brings us down to reports from standing or special committees. Do we have any reports?
We had a finance meeting at 6:30 tonight, and we had a budget revision from the reallocation of $250,000 of stormwater to capital reserve fund, and budget unanimously.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, hearing from none, brings us down to Madam Clerk. You can work your magic. That
Yes,
brings
sir.
us down to
We will open the floor for nominations for President of City.
Mr. President,
yes, sir. Mr. Moore.
we nominate Andrew Borkowski for president.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations for President of City Council for next year? Hearing none.
Okay, I'll call the roll and you just say Mr. Bukowski. Mr. McCready.
Mr. Borkowski.
Ms. School.
Mr. Borkowski.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Bukowski.
Ms. Tuck.
Mr. Borkowski.
Mr. Huffman.
Borkowski.
Mr. Rexroad.
Mr. Bukowski.
Mr. Bukowski.
Mr. Borkowski.
Mr. Moore.
Mr. Borkowski.
Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. Borkowski. Congratulations, Mr. Borkowski. Congratulations. Now to our Vice President,
The floor is open for nominations.
Mr. President,
Mr. Moore.
I want to nominate Sharon Cool.
Okay, we have a nomination for Sharon Poole as Vice President. Do we have any other nominations?
Was there a second? Didn't.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hearing no other nominations for Vice President, Madam Clerk, the vote on that, please.
Mr. McCready.
Ms. Cool.
Ms. Cool.
Ms. Cole.
Mr. Brown.
Ms. Cool.
Ms. Tuck. Ms. Cool. Mr. Huffman.
Cool.
Mr. Rexroad.
Ms. Cool.
Mr. Bukowski.
Ms. Cool.
Mr. Moore.
Ms. Cool.
Mr. Reynolds.
Ms. Cole. Congratulations, Mrs. Cole, Vice President 2026. Unanimous votes, 2 unanimous votes. That's great. Okay, that brings us down to our public forum. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight?
Yes, sir, we have a few. The first one is Chris Jerkowski, Blennerhassett Heights. He wants to talk about the rental inspection and registration, followed by Eric Landers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I did want to speak about the potential risks of the rental inspection and registration. Though it sounds like it's a great idea on the surface, I think it could bring up quite a few problems for all three, renters, landlords, and the city. The potential impact on renters would definitely cause an increase in rents, which the landlords would pass along the registration fee, inspection costs, and any required repairs. I believe it would cause a loss of affordable housing units. The smaller landlords would have a higher cost involved in fixing their places up. Just as an example, a lot of our homes are older here, and things like operable windows, which a lot of the older houses are painted shut, and if they all have to be operable, that would be quite an expense. The potential for the renter being displaced, if a unit falls or fails inspection, what happens with the renter? Where do they go? If they temporarily have to move out, the cost is going to be incurred by the renter or the landlord. The part of the privacy and disruption of the renter's livelihood. Occupied homes, we'd have to make appointments to get in there. Delays in move-ins. Potentially, if a apartment has not been inspected, we'd have to wait for that inspection to occur, or if it isn't registered, for the registration to come through. Just as an example, Parkersburg is believed to have about 36% of its housing as rental. For the landlord, it would be increased operating costs, fees included for inspections, repairs, and time off from work. The administrative burden, particularly for the small mom-and-pop operations. The rental delays and vacancy losses due to inspection backlogs or certification lapses. Unpredictable or subjective enforcement with certain programs like FHA, which I believe the rules would be close to. The interpretation is often at the discretion of the inspector. If there's a dispute between what I as a landlord have versus what the inspector has, where does that go? Who takes care of it, and how much time could be involved with that? The cash flow challenges when repairs are required, how long of a time period are we given to have these items corrected? And there has to be a point where the city will come in and say, well, the renter is going to have to move out and it's going to fix it. Once it's fixed, how long will it take for the reinspection to occur? And that could be a big loss of money for the landlord and also for the renter. With this increase of inspections in the rental units, I think we'll eliminate a lot of our lower prices. I know someone mentioned at the last meeting that we want to make sure that everyone has a safe place to live.
Mr. Jorkowski, that's 4 minutes, sir.
Okay. My party comment, that the rent will go up from $400, $500 for a one bedroom to $1,000.
Is Mr. Landers here? He was here earlier. Maybe not. Okay, the next one would be Caroline Iber.
How do you say your last name?
Iber.
Iber.
I'm Caroline Iber. I'm here to speak once again about the storm drain flooding issue in the area of 6th Avenue on South Side. When there are heavy rains, the properties around Myrtle and Olive Street and 6th Avenue become a quagmire and the basements flood. The nearest storm drain is about 8 inches higher than the surrounding ground, so it's unable to drain groundwater properly. There are 2 other storm drains along 6th Avenue. I raised this issue with the council in October, and President Mr. Reynolds told me the appropriate department was Public Works, and he would pass on my concerns. No response from Public Works to this or to my follow-up email to Mr. Shears. The residents in the area would like to have a drawing of the storm drains along 6th Avenue and possibly an inspection of the drains to see if we can determine what the problem might be and then begin to find a solution.
I'll ask Mr. Shears, would you mind meeting with Mrs. Ibert and myself for a few minutes after the meeting?
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Next, we have Sue Ellen Waybright, Division Street, and then Amanda Queen.
Good evening. A proposal on tonight's agenda is to move $250,000 from the stormwater fund to make repairs on the Pappas Corner on city property. Stormwater is a major problem in our area and should be a priority for spending our tax dollars. But what exactly are those priorities? A little over a year ago, I spent several $1,000s installing a larger gutter along with 2 accompanying larger downspouts on one side of my house. I know that in at least 2 of the 5 flooding rains that we received during this past summer, The rain was so heavy running down my hillside street and so high that it covered my curbs. Covering my curbs meant making my water inaccessible to get out to the street. This put inches of water in my finished basement from inadequate drainage to the city. I consulted 2 experts. The only options they could give me to come up with was instead of draining the water directly into my neighbor's yard and consequently his basement. I'm not going to do that. So I have to depend on adequate city storm drains to keep my basement dry. Hundreds of residents within or adjacent to the city suffered the same consequences of inadequate storm drainage from the rains in June, July, and August. Have we even had a stormwater committee meeting this year? It is well past time for the city administration to prioritize the budget to benefit what is in the best interest of the citizens of Parkersburg over the property owned by the city. It is our taxpayer dollars paying for these services and paying their salaries. Vote no on Resolution 2 and put that money to work on stormwater issues that directly support the residents. Thank you.
Next, we have Amanda Queen, followed by Brian Hayden.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Amanda Queen, and I stand before you today as a single mother who has been navigating an incredibly challenging situation with my landlord. I hope to share my story not just as a plea for understanding, but as a call to action that highlights the urgent need for accountability in rental agreements and the protections we must extend to vulnerable tenants like myself. As a single mom on disability, caring for my disabled child, I have always strived to provide a safe and stable environment for my son. However, what I have experienced with my landlord has turned our home into a place of distress rather than refuge. For months, I have endured an ongoing list of issues in my unit, starting with a gas leak, a roof leak, no heat, serious electrical issues, rodents and other pest problems, and new smoke detectors. Problems that my landlord has repeatedly failed to address or just blatantly ignored. These issues were not merely inconveniences. They posed a serious danger to my son's health and safety. In my efforts to secure a safe living environment, I was left with no choice but to involve code enforcement. And when I did, it led to several citations against my landlord for violations that should never have existed in the first place. It is heartbreaking to think that in my pursuit of a safe home, I have now found myself facing eviction. I have been given until noon on December 27th to vacate the unit. The irony is not lost on me, but that my decision to withhold rent, a last resort to urge my landlord to fulfill his obligations and responsibilities, has now severely affected my ability to find another place to live. With the eviction looming over my head, I have faced rejection from potential landlords who view my situation as a risk. The very act of standing up for my rights as a tenant has left me feeling vulnerable and exposed with nowhere to go. Just today, I experienced an incident that epitomizes the distress I have felt throughout this entire ordeal. While I was preparing to take my son and myself to our doctor's appointments, my landlord attempted to force his way into my home. He didn't give the legally required 24-hour notice. My son was terrified. I was trying to protect my son and ensure that we could leave safely for our appointments without further harassment and bullying from my landlord. After I left, the landlord took it upon himself to enter my home without my permission, disregarding my clear request for him to wait. It's not just a violation of my rights as a tenant, it is a clear invasion of my privacy and safety. I share this not to vilify my landlord, but to shed light on a broader issue that affects many in our community. Tenants, especially those who are most vulnerable, need to feel secure in their homes, free from intimidation and neglect. We need a system that not only holds landlords accountable, but also protects the tenants from retaliation when they exercise their rights. As members of the City Council, you have the power to advocate for changes that can make a difference in the lives of individuals like myself and my son. urge you to consider measures to strengthen tenant protections, ensure that landlords are held accountable for maintaining safe living conditions, and provide support for families facing evictions. We need resources and programs that can assist families in crisis, allowing us to find stable, adequate housing without the fear of being punished for advocating for our basic rights. Together, we can foster a community where all families have access to safe and secure homes, where no parent like myself has to face the threat of eviction for simply seeking a safe place for their child. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I sincerely pray that my story resonates with you and inspires action to protect the most vulnerable among us.
Next, we have Brian Hayden.
Good evening. Tonight I will be speaking on agenda item number 2 and number 5. The proverb, Nero fiddled while Rome burned, means that someone is irresponsibly ignoring a major crisis or doing trivial things instead of addressing urgent problems, showing a lack of concern or ineffectual leadership. The fact that the fiddle was not yet invented and that Nero was in yet another city derives from the lesson to be learned. Tonight, the Parkersburg City Council Finance Committee has decided that from the 2024 to 25 budget line item 805-230, Stormwater Contractual Services, we should reallocate unspent funds. The amount of the transfer is $250,000. I mean, I guess that's going to be fine because we have a CDBG grant for 2026 CD 25-06, stormwater improvements in the amount of $150,000 coming. I'm not exactly convinced that losing $100,000 in improvements to a critical infrastructure project fits into the overall austerity philosophy extolled by our chief administrator. The fiscal year 25-29 5-year consolidated plan identifies a priority need for stormwater improvements, and that we should be eligible for a federal tax handout. There appears to be a trend of overestimating the costs and then finding creative ways of diverting the excess to vanity projects. The fishing hole at the city park is not flooding people's garages every storm, basements, or eroding the very streets that we drive in. The mayor in this chamber once stated he lacks the political clout to fix the extensive problem that is our failing stormwater system. Judging by this current request for the diversion of eligible funds and the future loss, I'm starting to suspect that it is not just political clout that is lacking. The priority of this council is to wisely and judiciously oversee the spending of our money. The foundations of our city are quite literally crumbling underneath of our roads. Pretty signs and fancy fishing holes are nice, but a stable and safe infrastructure needs to be a priority. Now, for item number 5. In a review of the City Council calendar, I am struck by the fact that some change to the codified ordinance was announced on August 19th of this year. The council met on August 12th and August 26th. Should the public be concerned that there was a meeting held on the 19th to which the public was not aware? A competently written ordinance should include correct and explicit information. If this ordinance refers to the adoption of Article 505.24, adopted on final reading August 12th, it should be cited correctly. If this refers to amending Ordinance 1350-06 from August 12th, it should be cited correctly. Several times this council has had to have been reminded the details matter when it comes to governance.
That's all we have, sir.
Mr. Hayden, over the past year, you have given council 22, in my opinion, narcissistic speeches. During our public forum, During these speeches to council, you have violated council's rules of decorum,
This is
and
inappropriate.
that's number 15. And I'm the council president.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Getting ready to rule on
It's
something.
not your council.
So what I'm ruling on is council's rules of decorum, number 15. You know council's rules, so you probably don't need me to read it to you, but I will. Any persons making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or shall become boisterous while addressing the council shall forthwith be barred by the presiding officer from further audience before this council, and that is what I'm doing.
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Myers, point of order. Point of order.
He wasn't any of that.
Mr. Icorn, would you come down, please, sir, and show Mr. Hayden the door and maybe explain to him what might happen if he...
I'm sorry, would you repeat your ruling, please?
Yeah, my ruling is that against council's rules of decorum, every speech that you give us, including tonight, is boisterous, sometimes slanderous, and you break every rule. Every rule when you come up to the microphone and speak, you break every rule, at least one of them every time.
This is This is my fundamental freedom of speech, sir. This is a First Amendment right, and if if the officers are called up here, they lose their qualified immunity.
No, you don't. And your time to
Because
speak
what
is
you're
over, sir.
doing
Your time to speak
is
over.
illegal against
So
the
you can either find your way to the
Constitution.
exit or Mr. Icorn will show you.
Why don't you want to hear from
I have never been boisterous, and I have never been slanderous. None of my attacks have been personal.
We will
They have
pull.
all been professional.
Yeah, that's my ruling. I'm council president, and that is my ruling.
Point of
Now.
order. Mr. Myers, can you rule on this, please?
Absolutely.
I'll read it to you. It's council rules.
Point of order.
I don't make rulings, I'm just to give you advice, but however.
What is the
Any
procedure?
person,
What's the
it's
procedure?
council's rules of
I'm about to
decorum.
tell you
There's somebody that states to them all about council rules.
But that's for council, not for
It's for
And you are
council
permitted
president.
and entitled to vote on
And
that
I'm making
ruling.
the call.
But you don't have evidence of such, no evidence.
Any persons making personal, impertinent, or slanderous comments.
I have never referred to an individual, only their
And now I'm
professional
going to call for
position.
order in the room. We can remove every person from this room if that's what we need
That's
to
the
do.
problem, because you as a city council president don't
He's
want
the
to hear
first
from
one
your
that we need
people.
to remove, Officer Icorn, the guy, this gentleman, Greg, he's the first one that needs to go.
I'll gladly go. You're an embarrassment to this city.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Myers, would you please talk about the procedure when there's a point of order call? What happens after there's a point of order call?
Point of order may be raised to challenge the ruling of a chair on any issue that the council is allowed to make.
Do we vote on that?
I think you can raise the point of order.
And I think you vote on that at a later date. You can put it on the agenda and you can vote on allowing Mr. Hayden to come back and approach and speak with this council. It's right here, I've got it right here.
Well, let me give you what I understand, from what I recall. The point of order is raised, and the chair can reconsider its ruling. I expect you to reconsider and make the same ruling, and then that ruling is subject to being submitted to a vote of council to overrule the chair if the majority of council chooses.
Right now, we can have that motion right now to overrule the rule of.
What I read is you have to put it on the agenda to allow Mr. Hayden to come back and approach and talk to this council. I don't know.
Is that
That's
correct?
a separate issue, those separate things. What I'm saying is, I think the point of order can be raised and voted on,
Thank you.
Okay. Well, let's call for the vote, Madam Clerk, to allow Mr. Hayden to continue.
Just a moment, Mr. Chair, and I'm sorry, Mr. Member, for interrupting. I think the point of order is with regard to the ruling, okay? I don't think Mr. Hayden is involved directly in the ruling. The issue is, should the ruling of the chair be upheld? And that is, I realize we kind of overlapping.
And I'm not sure if everybody on council is familiar with this, but I'll be glad to pass it along so everybody on council can read it. It's highlighted.
There's a question on the floor to raise the point of order where the president has made a ruling. we get to decide whether we support his ruling. I believe that's correct.
I believe that's correct.
That's why we came out.
And that's procedurally how we always operate. The council as a body always ultimately can rule on things. The president has the right to govern the meetings, and make rulings as he has that inherent right. But the council can determine whether a ruling of the chair is valid or not valid, whether it should be upheld or overruled.
Do we need to make a motion to vote?
I would say if you've raised a point of order, Mr. Reynolds is to rule and stand as you previously articulated.
Yes.
All right, then I think the vote would be whether or not the ruling of the chair is upheld or not upheld. Madam Clerk, I think that would be the issue to submit to.
Okay, can you say that one more time? We're ruling whether his,
Yeah, what the vote should be whether or not the ruling of the chair should be upheld.
thank you.
And it won't be up to me, of course, after this meeting, because we'll have to press that. Okay, Madam Clerk, that is the vote is to the ruling of the chair to be upheld. If you're voting yes, I'm assuming you're voting to uphold the rule of the chair. If you're voting no,
I would agree that would be a reasonable way to construe the vote.
No would be against.
no if you're against the ruling of the chair, yes if you're in favor of the chair's ruling.
Is there any discussion on this?
Sure.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, I don't recall under Robert's rules whether it's debatable, but I like to function based upon practicality. I think it's, if the council wants to debate it, I don't think that's unreasonable.
You have a question?
I understand in the past that you, the accused, refer you as at this point, okay? Yeah, it's a lot. Has been a little boisterous, a little condescending, and has made remarks. I do not feel tonight that you did that. There was reasons before tonight to have you removed. That return was chosen not to be done. I do not like this continuous animosity between council and the public. You're right, you have a freedom of speech. We have a right, because you have chosen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which one you're talking about. We have a right to set the record straight with what you have said. Personally, I'm tired. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of constantly people coming up and saying things, and I'm not talking about you tonight, Mr. Hayden, about council, about things on the agenda, and they're wrong. And they are wrong. Get your facts straight. But tonight, I disagree, and it will be my vote not to bar you this time. There was plenty of other times before that I really thought you should have done. But tonight, no.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rexford?
Mr. Hayden, I don't always agree with you. Actually, very often I disagree with you. However, I don't think council rules, actually I know council rules, can't override the Constitution. I believe it is your constitutional right to tell us what you'd like to. And we're gonna, if you wanna get a little upset with me, I can take it. I think everybody else up here can too. Council rules can't override the Constitution.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Tupman, was Mr. Brown in there too?
The only thing I'm gonna say is this, when you get up there, and others get up there, you're supposed to talk to the council, but you always like to single people out. Tonight, you singled out persons. That is not allowed. You can have your freedom of speech, but when you bring up the president, or the mayor, or any of the other councilmen, by name or by district, you have violated this, and that is what he is pulling on you tonight. You violated it.
Mr. President.
Mrs. Huff?
Yes, I would like to echo Mr. Rexroth's sentiments that we took an oath to this Constitution. Every single veteran in this room has given their life or stood up for the right of our Constitution. We cannot sacrifice that no matter how tired we are, because you have the right, every single person has a right to address us. Other people have mentioned names, that is not an issue, but the Constitution is what we took an oath to.
Well, that might feel warm and fuzzy, but, you know, council
Condescending.
That's
outrageous.
The Constitution is not warm and fuzzy. It's
Well,
the
then
founding
eliminate the
document
rules
of
and just
this
let people
country.
get up there and talk about whatever they want, and they can be.
That's what
That's what you're
it should be.
supposed to do.
That's exactly what it should be.
They can just talk about whatever they want.
You should. That's the point of having a public forum.
Read that paragraph.
Yeah, it's in council's rules of decorum, you know.
Change the rules.
It's freedom of degrading.
Freedom of speech. But when you start calling people out by name,
Slander is not covered under speed of freedom. You have no right to do that.
Slander anybody stating facts.
So, I mean, this is just a way to let council vote on it, let the council vote on it, and if they want to continue hearing from Mr. Hayden, that's how they'll vote. If they don't, then he won't.
Call for the question.
So the question is just the ruling of the chair to uphold or vote against the ruling of the chair. If you vote yes, then you're voting to uphold the ruling of the chair. If you vote no, then you're voting against the ruling of the chair. And then Mr. Hayden will continue to be allowed to come in here and ramble on about his
let him vote.
If you don't like the narrative, then change what you're doing.
I'm sorry.
If you don't like the narrative, then change what you are doing.
Well, that has nothing to do with this.
It absolutely does. That's everything.
We got people that come up to the microphone and they
Call
want
for
to
the question.
talk about stuff that's not, they're not allowed to
Call
talk
for the
about.
question.
We're not allowed to talk about it's our money. We are being taxed for this.
Well, you don't have to vote for me.
Call for the question.
Call for the vote.
Call for the vote. The vote. Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
No.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck? No. Mr. Huffman?
No.
Mr. Rexroth?
No.
Mr. Borkowski?
No.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes. Motion passes, or fails.
Thank you all for the apology.
Oh, yeah. Where are you even from? Resolution number 1. Okay, I really won't, sir. Next message from the executive.
Thank you. First of all, in case I forget, I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I want to address a couple things. Item number 2, particularly, there's been some, I think, miscommunicated information. I thought that those who attended the Finance Committee meeting earlier today, we made it pretty clear. So what our wonderful engineer drew up was
a project to use a stormwater chamber system, not exactly like the one on 20th Street or Beechwood, but similar, to capture stormwater and use said stormwater system. This is the same system that back in 18 or 19, Connie nominated us for an award with the municipal league. But anyway, so this is not about necessarily appropriating stormwater money for the pond. There's been a flooding issue at 23rd and Park Avenue, quite frankly, for a really long time. Adam's come up with a plan to use some technology that we didn't use prior to him becoming our engineer 7 years ago, whatever it was, to, or maybe I'm wrong, you got a little dry, I don't know how long we've been here, but then engineering. So it's a stormwater project that just happens to be on a similar, he did it all as one job. So this is not reallocating money from stormwater. It quite frankly would improve that particular intersection, which is, I don't want to say it's the highest traffic, but it's high traffic. So I just want to put any concerns that we're taking stormwater money and using it for the pond. It just so happens Adam came up with a pretty innovative plan to use stormwater to supply the pond and kind of, I'm going to say, is rechannel the appropriate term. We'll pump it into the pond as needed to regulate the levels a little bit. So I went to that. And then there were some comments made about how we doing so poorly at stormwater. And I was trying to find the budget, and quite frankly, my eyes don't work on my phone like it should. But the city of Parkersburg, the last at least 9 years I've been here, has spent more money remedying stormwater failures than I would charge any administration. I remember when my friend Jimmy Colombo was mayor, his first term, the city was spending about $50,000 a year on stormwater. We're well into the seven figures almost every year. I don't want to make this about Adam, but Adam came up with the idea of lining existing stormwater systems, which, if you had to guess percentage-wise, half or a third of the cost of picking them up and replacing them. Yeah, probably a third of the cost. So part of this job when it comes to the budget is to get as much value as we can. So while the city of Parkersburg is always going to have stormwater problems, make no mistake about it. I was appointed to a committee to study this problem when I got elected to city council in 2003. At that time, I think we estimated to be about $250 million. I mean, you weren't here then, but I'm sure that report's on there. My point is, this is one of those that, is hugely expensive to remedy, and, I get told all the time I don't take credit. I'm proud of the work we've done with stormwater. There's always going to be alleys that flood, some of these instances that are brought to our attention, you go out and look at it. I'm not an engineer, but if the house is here and the street is here, you're going to have water to manage. So I don't want to make it personal. God knows we got enough of that going on already. But I just, I said I'll echo what I said, my comments and some of Adam's comments with regards to this pond/stormwater. We've got a pond out there that was identified through kind of the Parks Advisory process 9 years ago now as an asset, a resource, or a feature, an amenity, albeit largely visual, that was designated to be important. We wanted to preserve it. We wanted to keep it. Somebody made a comment at the Finance Committee meeting. We've checked all the boxes in the park. We've replaced both of our swimming pools in our main parks. We're replacing the pavilion, which was, again, at the direction of that committee. Let's rebuild something new, something better, something more useful. The band shell was identified. The fountain was identified as sacred. Southwood Pond. One of the, back to the pool thing, folks in South Parkersburg those kids have had a pool for years. So we've been matriculating our way through this Parks Master Plan for 9 years. I don't want to say this is the last piece, but this is probably the last big ticket item. I don't know, maybe I can't be, who knows. But, so this wasn't just, hey, let's spend, you know, all this money on the pond. This goes back to what I've tried to instill through my time in this job, which was a pay-as-you-go. You know, we couldn't afford to do City Park Pool and Splash Pad and Southwood, so we saved for it. We got lucky with some ARPA money, first one to admit to that, which sped up the process. We got very fortunate with some brilliant legal work by, no offense, Mr. Myers, our previous city attorney, to get us access, Eric, to the fountain fund. You know, folks wanted to see the fountain. That fountain was identified as something people like, want to keep. This is kind of the same thing. So I encourage, number one, to be clear, it's a stormwater component that just happens to be on a similar contract with Adam. Quite frankly, you know, I probably don't say it enough. We're lucky to have an engineer who thinks outside the box, and his words, not mine, trying to kill two birds with one stone, which is to fix the stormwater problem for hundreds of residents in the vicinity of 23rd and Park Avenue, and at the same time perform some maintenance on an amenity that was, I mean, folks wanted to keep the pond. They wanted to make the pond prettier, better. So I encourage adoption of item number 2. With regards to the item number 3, you know, I think I made this comment to someone earlier today. With regard to this rental registration, I've been mayor 9 years. I served 2 terms on city council. I cannot think of, and I did lay off for 4 years and wasn't really engaged in the city business. I challenge you to find a more researched and deliberative piece of legislation, at least going back to 2003. Like I said, there may have been something in there, and there's 4 years I was out. But the planning committee, or the planning commission, has an ordinance subcommittee. Ryan, help me out. Where's Ryan? Is he here? Ryan's here. Sorry. So an ordinance subcommittee looked at it. Then the full planning commission did. Had a public hearing on it. Referred it to the code review board. Myself and Ryan and Mr. Nestor and Chief Matthews. Kalea, did you participate in the public meeting we had? So we had another public meeting where folks came to that podium and asked questions. I don't know, 60, 90 minutes, Chief, something like that. So if you don't like the ordinance, that's fine. I mean, I get it, but to say we've got to go back, I mean, there has been a lot of work, starting with the Planning Commission subcommittee, Planning Commission itself, to one for sure public hearing at the Planning Commission. The other was an opportunity where Andy here? We invited landlords. We had some tough questions. Make no mistake, the young lady here today, I don't like singling people out, but she made some good points with regards to the landlord-tenant agreement. And we've got an attorney over here, got an attorney friend back there. There are a lot of folks who unfortunately take advantage of people through some of these agreements. I would hate to think that someone would evict somebody because they were worried about them not providing safe, suitable housing. Andy is, Andy gets a lot. I'm not going to put Andy on the spot. If you want to call him up and come on and vote, you can. But I just think that there's been a lot of work going into this, and if you're a landlord who's number one, and I don't know the gentleman who spoke, but been in this business, the rental properties for a long time. All those costs eventually get passed on to the tenant, and I don't like it, but he made you think about selective enforcement. If we want to do selective enforcement, we'd be giving you a list of folks that we know are taking advantage of people, and providing, we had a house fire, a structure fire this week that was, wasn't it a kerosene heater? That's the kind of stuff that we're trying to mitigate. Let's say, if there's one person who has advocated for this, that if it doesn't even pass the final reading tonight, just advocated for a tremendous amount of work, it's Mr. Nestor back there. I mean, we understand. We did the math on what we think we can pay for it. I think Andy's got some information he can share if you want on data that he's going to collect, but just wanted to set the record straight on the stormwater appropriation revision, and I made my offer at the public meeting, and I'll make it again publicly here tonight. I own some units in Parkersburg, and Andy, I'll be the first one to register, and you come out and inspect the units that I own right off the bat. I promise you that, if you so desire. Now, if somebody else, there's other landlords here tonight that won't be first, I can't bump me out of that list. So that's all I have tonight, sir. Again, lastly, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, that brings us down to resolution number 1.
A resolution requesting a budget revision to cover expected costs of a position reclassification in the city attorney personnel department. That amount was about $1,300.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Cool,
move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from council?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Tuck?
would you explain what the expected cost is and what it's changing from and to, if you would, please? Is Jennifer here?
I think that's more of an Eric question.
Oh, okay. Didn't mean to make you get up, Eric, I'm sorry.
Revision in your packet. I think it's labeled page 1, is for $1,336 total. Okay, now that is for 6.5 months left in this fiscal year. Includes the $1 an hour that the committee voted on, plus all of our taxes and benefits that are associated with that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Also, if I could clarify real quick.
Sure.
That position is paid out of 2 different departments, so you'll see it's from city attorney and then personnel departments.
Does that answer your question, Mrs. Tuck?
Yes, I just wanted to.
Do we have any further questions on resolution number 1? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Rexroad?
Yes.
Mr. Borkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, resolution passes. Number 2, please.
A resolution requesting a budget revision to reallocate $250,000 from stormwater contractual services to capital reserve fund for city park, pond, wall, sidewalk, and dredging.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Cool?
move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions regarding resolution number 2 from council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Rexroad?
Yes.
Mr. Borkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes. Resolution number 2 passes. Ordinance on final reading, please.
An ordinance enacting Part 17, Article 1764 of the codified ordinances to be entitled Residential Rental Unit Inspection and Registration.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Cool?
move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion. Yes,
Mr. President,
sir, Mr. Huffman.
This might be an Andy Nestor question. I've gotten this question a few times. I'm not sure what the answer is yet. They're wanting to know how the selection process will start. Will it start with people who have complaints against code? What's the process for choosing which properties you'll start with? Have you gotten that far yet? We're wondering.
The registration will come first, which will trigger the inspections. So the registration is the first part.
Andy, excuse me, could you please come to the microphone? Sorry, Zach.
And there's a lot of confusion on this, there's a lot of questions on it. I'm sure everybody up there has been fielded with a bunch of questions, I've been fielded with questions, so this is not something that's gonna start as soon as this adoption, whether it passes or fails or whatever. We're not gonna start today. So the starting date for this is probably gonna be pushed out to July 1, the fiscal year. So I gave all council members a copy of the actual checklist, which we can share with the landlords, so nobody's caught off guard. 6 months to meet what the checklist is. So what we'll first work on is get with the finance department. We'll get the logistics straightened out, it's exactly what they need. Landlords will voluntarily register their units. That will trigger the inspections. So as registrations come in, we'll start on the inspections. So it'll be registration first, inspection second. So that's how that will work.
Thank you.
Mr. Rivers.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, Mr. Nestor. He brought up a good point. Say August 15th, person moves out. Am I gonna have that inspected before I bring in new renters?
It's in the ordinance. You get inspected. You don't get re-inspected for 24 months.
Well, what I'm saying, if it just, it starts July 1.
Right.
My renter moves out August 15th. Am I allowed to rent that before it gets inspected to start with?
Correct.
Since it's gonna be a new renter?
Your inspection is good for
But-
a 24-month period, whether it's.
Well, what I'm saying, it hasn't
or
been
a new
inspected.
tenant.
It hasn't been inspected yet. That's what I'm saying. Say August, you haven't inspected it. This problem yet. I have a renter move out. Can I go ahead and rent it to somebody until it gets inspected, or does it need inspected first?
Well, we're hoping to have everybody that has the registration start flowing in. Are we gonna get every apartment in the city of Parkersburg?
No, I'm just saying before I rent to a new person, if it's already started the deadline, can I go ahead and rent to them, or do I have to wait till you guys inspect?
We're not displacing, this is not to displace anybody or to shut people's apartments down. That is not the intent of this at all. The intent of this is just to supply tenants with the basic needs for a safe place to rent. That's all it is. I mean, this is just a basic checklist. I think if you guys look at the checklist, there's nothing on there that we adopt the code. So we've already adopted these codes. This is not new codes that we just adopted and now we're going to start enforcing them. These codes have been in place forever. And if these units do not have smoke detectors, they're already in violation. We're giving you time to get them up, and we're going to do the inspection. And it's a very watered down, very basic checklist. I think if you guys look at it, I think you'll understand.
Mr. President, sorry.
Go ahead.
Did that answer your question about if you have a vacancy?
Yeah, well, that's what, I don't know if it did answer.
Let me
I'm saying my
for a second.
yeah.
Okay. So I think what your question is, I haven't been inspected yet, and it's
Right,
vacant.
that's what I'm saying.
You don't have to have it inspected to rent it, but once you have it, the only time you gotta worry about folks not moving in or having the problems is if you fail three times, that pretty basic checklist, then you got a problem. So you can move somebody in
So it won't hold up
without
anybody
inspecting, but when you fail 3 inspections, you don't have proper heat, you don't have hot water, you don't have plumbing to all the appropriate fixtures, you got 7 people living in a basement with no windows, then you got a problem. So I don't want, whether you have a tenant or not, has nothing to do with your inspection schedule. You'll get now,
because that gentleman right there asked if somebody moves out.
You don't have to get re-inspected. The ordinance, I think, is crystal clear. You get inspected
But I mean,
every
he hasn't,
24 months.
what I'm saying, he hasn't been inspected.
And what I'm saying is,
Okay.
the only time you gotta worry about you're not allowed to have people is if you fail 3 times. And quite frankly, any landlord, and this may offend some people, but what the heck, that fails this basic inspection 3 times has got no business collecting rent from anybody.
Right.
Because you're talking about basic, very basic life safety, health and sanitation kind of stuff.
Mr. Moore, I don't think he's answered your question.
Yeah, he answered it. Yeah, he
But
did.
if it hasn't been inspected, because I believe the ordinance says you can't rent until your apartment has been inspected and registered.
Right there is registered. As long as you register the unit, we're not gonna hold you up pending an
Right.
inspection.
Okay, all right.
Register the unit.
Okay, that's the key. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Tuck?
Are you pretty sure it won't start until after the budget process, like January 1 is when you're expecting things to be ready to roll out?
Let me answer that. Andy and I have had a lot of conversations about that. And Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. I think what Andy's telling me is, if there are indeed 3,000 units, he's not going to have them all done next week. You know, somebody asked a question, where do you start? I would hope, well, we know where you're going to start. I already promised it in front of God and everybody. But I would hope that those landlords who have run safe and, you know, the heat works and the water pipe, you know, there's water to every feature. I mean, like I said, look at the checklist, very basic stuff. I would hope those folks would say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and register. Andy, when can you inspect me? I'm ready now. Tell me when. I'll let my tenants know. I mean, anybody that uses a property maintenance company, and I know a lot of people do, a lot of people don't, you're doing some kind of inspection with your tenants already. Because if you're not, you're going to find out the hard way that you got a leaky toilet, or, I mean, you know, I think like many things, those folks that feel comfortable based on the checklist and the very basic stuff, they're going to keep in mind. There's going to be folks that we're going to ask to register, but we're not going to inspect it. If you're on the HUD list, we don't do inspections. They're inspections. If you're, you know, so. I think what Andy's telling you is this is not something that if it passes today that he's going to be doing inspections the first week of January. There's, you know, and make no mistake, there will be landlords who just will not ever register until we probably know who some of them are. That's just the way it is.
Thank you. Mr. President, I had one
Yes,
other
ma'am.
question.
Go ahead.
The mayor mentioned that you had figured out the numbers. Like, do we think that the number of inspectors required to do this work will be paid for by the $25 registration per unit? Have you worked? Is that what you were referring to in terms of how the program will be funded?
Well, like I said before, that'd be a question for Mr. Giles. That's why he's in the position he's at. But he's looked over the rough numbers, and we felt comfortable enough to present this and move forward with it. The actual number of what it's going to generate, I don't know. Can you tell me how many apartments are going to fail and be assessed a penalty? I don't know that number. That's a fictitious number. Hopefully
I just think
nobody.
the registration number to start with.
And hopefully everybody registers, so we can, have the correct list of apartments. I don't think we'll ever be 100% compliant. I don't know if anybody that's ever implemented this in their municipalities is 100% compliant with this, but it's a work in progress.
I guess that was my thought about it, going through the budget process to make sure that we have enough money to pay for it. Because it may have to come out of general funds if it's not paid for by the registration.
That's all a question with Eric.
Yeah.
Mr. Giles was one of the first ones that we brought this before. We didn't see if it would work. We didn't even set the fees. I mean, everybody's ordinances around the state have a different fee schedule.
I just want to make sure
Ours
we
is
can
one
pay
of the
for it.
lowest ones because we felt that we could perform this ordinance. Is it $25? There's one other thing, and I told Mr. Rexford this before, and I think that just to be clear with this, and somebody came to me today and gave me this idea, and I believe it's a good idea. I talked to Mr. Rexford about this idea. If this would pass, and we would start this on July 1, that I come back as the code director and give a quarterly update. How many units we've got registered? How many units passed? How many units are compliant? How many of them failed? And it's just a quarterly update for at least the first year, so you guys are, informed on how this is progressing, how we're going, the money's generating, all that. And so, I would say, invite me back every quarter with, if you want a rundown of exactly what's going on, I'll give it to you.
Any other questions from council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can we get the vote, please?
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Rexroad?
Yes.
Mr. Polkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes. Ordinance on final reading passes. Number 4, please.
An ordinance amending and reenacting the City of Parkersburg Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual Position Classification Schedule to reflect a request for a personnel legal specialist to be reclassified from an H8 position to an H9.
Mr. President,
Mr. Rexford.
move to adopt the ordinance on final reading.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Rexroad?
Yes.
Mr. Polkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes. Ordinance passes. Ordinance, first reading, number 5, please.
An ordinance to approve current replacement pages to the codified ordinances of the City of Parkersburg as announced August 19, 2025.
Mr. President,
Mrs. Cool?
move for adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from council?
Mr. President,
Mrs. Tuck?
do we need to correct that date? I guess that would be more directed at clerk.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll be glad to double check that. I thought I had. But it's one of those dates that I have to announce that we've done it, and then 90 days later we pass this ordinance. So I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Any other questions on the ordinance first reading? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, the vote, please.
Mr. McCready?
Yes.
Ms. Cool?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Tuck?
Yes.
Mr. Huffman?
Yes.
Mr. Rexroad?
Yes.
Mr. Polkowski?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes, ordinance passes on first reading. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
I think we're gonna jump it.